Well, we are all completed with the well, and it was kind of a hassle getting down in here. You can tell where we sunk right here. And one good thing is the water level is very high, and the reason being for that is we're down in a bottom. You can't really tell the grade of the land, but it's pretty significant drop off. First thing we're going to do is drop the pump in the well, and we got to make a trench from somewhere around here to the well, and then a lot of stuff goes on. Here we are in the basement, and it's partially finished with the interior walls, but on the outside you don't really know where you're going to go in, so we're going to have to take a measurement. I believe the seam on the outside of the superior wall is somewhere between these two studs. So we're gonna have to go in on the downhill side somewhere here. And then our pipe's gonna have to go up along with our wire. And it's gonna have to follow the floor joists all the way across. And we're gonna have to 90 and go over to the mechanical room. All right, so we're in the basement, and this room here is the mechanical room. Can't really see much, they don't have the lights. Let's see. Oh, the lights work. That's fantastic. Now we can kind of get a little bit better of a visual. So this is going to be their wall where they're going to mount their instant hot water heater, and we're going to mount our filter there, and our pressure tank is going to go here. But we cannot enter the wall on the other side of this because the front patio is already poured and you can't enter there. And then the septic system is actually going to exit out of the front wall and go to the tank that's going to be in the front of the yard, and then they're going to have a pump system that pumps it up the hill. So that was what forced our well to be in the backyard, and then we're going to have to trench in and come all the way in on the other side of the house. So somewhere over here we're going to be punching a hole from the outside in with the hammer drill, and I'm going to have to measure, cut some of this foam out, nice big foam, probably 8-inch, 10-inch square, to where then I can caulk around my pipe sleeve to where we don't get any seepage from outside rainwater. Once we come through, we're going to 90 up. We're going to switch over to PEX. We're going to run 1-inch PEX all the way through the floor joists, and we're going to make a sweep, and we're going to go all the way over there where the mechanical room is. Here's our well pump. Well pump is only going in 65 feet today. The water level is so high, and the well makes such high quantities of water that there's no need for it to go any deeper. All right, so I have measured from the outside and from the inside. Have my saw ready. 103 inches over from the wall. You add 3 inches for the thickness of the concrete of the superior wall. And we have a seam right here on the outside. You can tell by the bolt here. So we need to be 13 inches over from the center of the seam, basically where I put my mud line. We're gonna drill a hole from the outside in. Now another thing we have to look out for is we have our gutter drain and our French drain system that are all tied in together. So you can see the gravel here. As you go over here, we have a transition, the lay of the land goes up. So down here underneath this dirt, we're gonna run into gravel. Hopefully we don't go that deep as to where we'll hit that. But we have to keep that in our mind when we dig. So you see the little mud dot on the wall? That is my mark, 13 inches over from the seam, which I believe is going to be the same distance from the inside of the wall. So that's where we're going to dig our ditch. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You can go between the truck and the dumpster. All right, so we're all finished with the ditch, and now it's time to use a hammer drill and bore hole through the basement wall. So the first bit that we're going to use is going to be our small pilot bit, and then we're going to check to make sure we hit our spot. Okay, so we just finished hammer drilling. We're going to come back in the room and see how close we got to my mud seam. So here's my mud seam. And there's my hole. So I'm pretty much dead on, maybe an inch over. We're going to go ahead now and take our core bit, and we're going to go ahead and core that out. It is a 2 1/16 core bit, I believe, or 2 1/8 inch. And the reason why we need that size is because we use a 1.5 inch PVC pipe, and that is our sleeve. But the outside diameter of the 1.5 inch PVC is 2 1/16. So we use that, and it's a nice tight fit. And then we use superior wall sealant to seal around it, and we use some other stuff, and I'll show that to you here shortly. So we have our nice and pretty hole here. Always try to keep your hammer drill as level as possible so you drill a straight hole. Nothing worse than having a crooked pipe entering the wall. It's just going to put stress on it as the ground settles around your house. Alright, so here is our enlarged hole. And then next step we have to do is either take a Sawzall or a sheetrock saw, and we have to cut a nice big hole out here. Now the reason why we cut such a large hole is to where we can get our caulking gun in here at different angles and seal around the pipe and then seal inside the pipe. Okay, so the big foam square has been cut out. We have our hole. Kind of busted out a little bit more cement than I would like, but that's just part of dealing with very thin superior walls. But we're going to go ahead and fill all this area in with caulk and smooth it over, and it'll be nice and pretty once we're all done with it. Alright, so when entering a basement, this is the stuff that I use. Now, it can be done multiple different ways. There's always, 10 ways to skin a cat. But this is my 1.5 inch pipe. What I like to do with it, I like to take a grinder or a Dremel and bevel the edge, as you can tell here. And then you can tell that I beveled the edge here. The reason being, when I slide my pipe and my wire through, it gives just enough opening to get the tip of the caulking gun in further, so I can go ahead and seal around it. Now, as far as the caulk, this is your number one, NP1. It is a polyurethane sealant, really good stuff. Now, I also recommend getting Fernco's, 1.5 inch Fernco, cut it in half, and then this Fernco here is 1.5 inch by 1.25 inch. That will go on the end, and then you can seal around your pipe and your wire. And then these will go on like so. And another one slid on the other side like so. And then your basement wall will be in between it, and you'll caulk around it. And what this does, this prevents your sleeve itself from sliding one way or another. Kind of locks it into place. And then this opening here will have your sealant around it, and you'll mush it, and it'll kind of keep that hole that you drilled through the concrete wall to help seal it and keep it from any rainwater getting in between it. Now, a key thing when doing this, you want this wall nice and clean. You don't want any dirt or any of your dusty stuff, because the caulking will not stick to it. Here's our first Fernco. We're going to go ahead and open it up to where it slides nice and easy. Keep our pipe nice and clean. This Fernco is going to go this direction. Now, what I didn't picture earlier was this piece here. Now, this is just a a roof vent, and it's for multiple different size pipes. And what I do, I take a pair of scissors and I cut these. We're gonna take this, we're gonna slide it over the pipe like this, and then we're gonna take our fern co. The fern co is gonna go down, clamp is gonna go towards it, and all of this stuff is we're gonna saturate it with the NP1 caulking. Now we don't need much sleeve on the inside, so it'll be good about right there. So I'm gonna go ahead now and put this dressing all around the pipe. And since we have this seal here, we're gonna go ahead and put a nice big old fat ring around it. Extra protection. I'm gonna go ahead and take this piece, we're gonna slide it up, twist it around, spread everything around, slide it back a little bit, and go ahead and push it through the wall. Push our pipe in. Now this is gonna fold like so. Push our pipe in, wipe it off our fingers because this stuff is pretty adhesive. Spread it all around, fill in the gaps, make a nice seal. We're going to take our fern co, we're going to push it forward. That's going to push those little fingers nice and tight. Take our clamp and clamp it. It's not going to go anywhere. Now, I would recommend having someone come out here and hold their hand against the back of this. That way when you go inside and you push the other fern co and you do your caulking, it won't push this out of the wall. Alright, now that we're inside, we have our sleeve sticking through. You can kind of see that area right there. Not the greatest lighting. Apologize about that. But we're going to go ahead now and we're just going to smother this with the sealant. We're going to push it in the gap. Put as much in there as we can. You really can't overdo it. The goal here is to seal this permanently so no rainwater ever enters the basement. And because the homeowner is going to put sheetrock behind this, it's going to all be sealed. So it'll be a nightmare if it did leak. I'm going to come all the way out here, put some. Typically when I do this, I use an entire tube of caulking. Alright, that's good. Put a little bit up towards there. And now the next thing we're going to do is we are going to slide the other fern co on. Gotta make sure we loosen it. Doing this with one hand is a smidge difficult. Alright. So we're just gonna slide it all the way. I have somebody on the other side holding a hand against it. We're gonna push and squeeze it in. Then I'm gonna take my clamp wrench and I'm gonna tighten that clamp. Nice and tight. Okie dokie. Now, trick. We're gonna use this piece of busted out concrete as a putty knife. Most people might have a putty knife. We're gonna take this and we're gonna smear it nice and smooth. We're gonna spread it. Because we busted such of an area out of the superior wall, we want to make sure that if any cracks form in this area, This stuff will seal it. So that part right there is done. The next thing we're going to have to seal is once we get our pipe and our wire through here, then we're going to have to take this caulking gun and put it in here and do the same thing. Okay, so since we have the interior done, we're going to go ahead now. We're going to add a little bit here to the outside. Doesn't really need it. Put a little bit around that. And take this fern coat here. Actually, we're going to spread it a little bit, thin it out. We're going to slide our fern coat on. Need to loosen it. That's on. Go ahead and tighten it up. And we're going to feed our wire in. First step is going to be the wire, because once you put your pipe through the sleeve, there's no way you're going to get the wire through. So we're going to go ahead and feed the wire through the sleeve, and then I'm going to go on the other side and I'm going to catch it. Alright, I have my wire. I'm going to make the walk. Now, no matter what I think I'm going to need, I'm going to walk the distance of basically all the way over to the mechanical room, but because I have 8 foot up and I have 8 foot down, the vertical drops, that means I need 16 extra feet. And I don't think I'm going to get that with the distance of this basement. I'm going to have to pull a little bit more. Alright. Should be good. So the last step is going to be the water line. Take our water line and we feed it right into that fern coat. Move the wire over. Alright. Yeah. Alright. So we got our pipe going in. So what we want to do next is we want to take and remove all the pine needles. And we're going to stick this in there and we're just going to squeeze, put a lot in there, go around it, put it all over the pipe. Go down here underneath it, put some, squeeze that full. Like I said, you can't use too much. And we're going to take this and we're going to twist it and we're going to go on in with it. Take our finger, push that in with it. Go around the back side on the bottom. Cover it nice. We're going to push, give it a little bit more. Bringing the sealant in with it. So it's not just sealing it out here at the fern coat, it's sealing it inside that sleeve. Give it a little bit more push. Dress it up, make it look nice and neat. We're going to tighten. Nice and pretty. Now let's go on the inside. We'll take a peek at it. Alright. We have our water line through the wall. What we're going to do here, wipe that off. We're going to take the tip of the gun, go in there, and we're going to squeeze. We're going to go below the wire, we're going to squeeze. We're going to move the wire around. Go on this side. squeeze it. Interior seal is just for insurance. The exterior seal is what's going to do all the work. All right, now that we've got that done, we're going to take a little spit, wet our fingers, that way the caulk doesn't stick to it. We're going to dress that up. I like to keep the wire on top of the pipe in this situation because the wire itself and the pipe are going to make a vertical run. So if the wire is there, it's already at its spot to make that vertical bend and go straight up. And go ahead and push some underneath it. Good deal. That's about it. Alright, so we've got the water line, electric line done. All we got to do now is come in the basement and start our process of the nightmarish journey through the puzzle pieces of the floor joists. So we have our wire ran. We use flexible conduit here, going up all the way up with hard stick above where the sheetrock will stop, and then we carried on, and we're going to do wire staples every 3 feet all the way down. We've got it ran all the way, and luckily with all the wire that I pulled, it's kind of amazing, we only have about 3 foot extra, so that was cutting it close. Next thing I got to do is chase conduit up this and have a little flex down here that will go to my pressure switch. Now I'm running the 1-inch main water line. We're going to use PEX since we have to make so many curves. We have less junctions that we would make up in the floating ceiling, so this way we can use one solid run. So as you can see, we have the plumbing side of the system done. We come through, we used a Schedule 80 gray elbow, and we're going up with Schedule 40 PVC, and then we make the transition right there to PEX. I decided to use a brass female because if you did the other way and used a PVC female and a brass male, then you would be subjected to the PVC cracking. Because the male has internal threads into the brass isn't going to crack. So we'll never get a leak there unless the thread itself starts to leak. But we went up and we put a clamp there. We notched it out, as you can see, and then we continued on, and we have a clamp there and another clamp there. And Justin is taking care of clamping the rest of it all the way down to the other side. We're over here at the tank now, fixing to plumb that up. We made our transition up here, same way we did our others. Going to the truck now to get a pipe clamp. We're going to clamp this to the wall here. And then we're going to go ahead and make our elbows and hook it up and do our wiring. So I decided to come out here to the well and take care of some of the trench and the wellhead plumbing. Now, if you run into a situation where you have like an open area below your pipe, be sure to fill it in and pack it down, because it's going to change the angle of your pipe, which is going to in turn change the angle of your elbow. So if I were to already put an elbow on this side, then the issue would be it would twist. So what you want to do, you want to go ahead and pack the ditch with dirt to where you get that twist on the elbow prior to gluing the other side of it, to where then your pipe would want to do this, but then you would bend it straight. Well, that elbow is going to live under stress underground its entire life until finally it's going to crack. So you always want to make sure you keep all of your fittings, 45s, elbows, T's, whatever it is, do not allow them to live under stress, and do what you can to prevent that. Alright, well, as you can see, I've got the wellhead all complete. The ditch dug, water line, electric line is in. Now, a few people is going to probably say, why don't you use a pitless adapter? Well, the reason we don't use a pitless adapter is because we're in Virginia, and the frost line here is like realistically 10 inches, and it very rarely ever stays below freezing for long periods of time, so there's no need for pitless adapters. Now, once you get up in Northern Virginia, up in the Maryland area, that's when we start switching over to pitless. Occasionally we will install one, but for now we always just use well seals. It just makes the job a whole lot simpler. And also, as far as our inspectors and the rules, you have to have a sample port. So if you have a pitless adapter down in the ground, it basically, that pipe goes right into the side of the casing, then you would have no spot for a sample port. So per state requirements, we have to have a sample port. That's why we hang our pumps on well seals. Now, if you have a well and you're wanting to know any information on your well, you should be able to go to your health department, give them your address and stuff like that, and they should be able to pull up the plot, the deed, with every bit of information that your house had listed when it was built. Now, also, let me show you this. Well drillers are supposed to do this, and not all of them do. But this is a well tag. It was drilled on June of 2022. The depth is 165 feet. The casing is 73 feet, a 20-foot static level, but we know from the beginning of the video that it's only about 10 feet down. The well makes 20 gallons a minute. It was drilled on 6/1/2022, and our recommendation was a half horsepower at 60 feet. So we put a half horsepower today at 65 feet, and you can tell our bentonite settled. So we had grouted it, but when you come back, it always settles. So we have multiple bags of chipped bentonite on the trailer, so I got to bring that down here and we got to fill the void in, and then next time it rains it'll swell the bentonite plug up and then it'll seal it off. So that's another thing. You can kind of tell casing's a little wiggly, but down there about, I don't know, 6 feet you can see it, and that's kind of common, not on every job, but the reason why this one is, you can tell we hit large volumes of sand. Typically when you dig in dirt and in rock, you have a nice smooth vertical borehole. Well, when you have sand, it's like an hourglass. So it doesn't have that, or maybe I would call it a teardrop shape. So you have your small 6-inch hole, and then it kind of widens down because of all the sand, and it keeps collapsing in. So you have a really, really large void down there that you had to fill with bentonite. I think we put somewhere like 4 batches down there, which would equate to, what is that, 90, it'd be like 270 gallons of grout, if you wanted to do it in terms of gallons. But it was quite a bit of grout, and it still settled, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and put some chips in it. And what we're gonna do now, we're gonna go ahead, homeowner just showed up, so I'm gonna cover the ditch, talk to her a little bit, show her a little bit about the system, and I'll show you what it all looks like once it's all done. All right, the water line, electric line have been covered. Everything has been smoothed. Well is covered, fiberglass mock rock cover. Let's go ahead in the basement and check it out. So we come on over here. What we want to do, we want to check, since we filled the ditch in, we want to make sure that this isn't jacked up at a weird angle from the pressure. All right, so I've noticed the wetness of my shear wall caulk here has started to settle. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it and repack it. And it's come down a little bit on this side. We're gonna carry it up and push it in there. Get a nice good seal. Good deal. Now let's go over to the tank and check it out. Cool. Got our water line, our power following it in conduit, flex conduit into the pressure switch. Nice level elbows. All our clamps are tight. It looks good, dude.
We tried to make it look pretty.
Yeah, it did. Turned out real nice. Yeah. Good deal.
If these hadn't been plastic, I could have.
I don't like the way that they did the plastic, but that's not us. Cool. Very happy with how it looks. Well, I hope y'all enjoyed today's video. It's kind of different, kind of the same. My jobs every day are always the same. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please smash that like button. That's the only thing that you can do to make the algorithm on YouTube better. If you want to, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I'm on the journey to get 100,000 subscribers, and only you can help me do that. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.